What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Warchant Report, which we are recording on location in Orlando from the Harry Buffalo, 129 West Church Street. The Warchant team is in full force. You've seen it with our content on Warchant TV from Aslan Hajavandi, covering practice and covering the Florida State events. Our Corey Clark, Irish O'Fell, Jeff Cameron are walking around the Harry Buffalo right now, meeting and greeting with everybody. We wanted to bring you a Warchant Report dedicated right here on this channel this week, breaking down Florida State and Oklahoma in the Cheez Bowl, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Corey Clark to my left. We are at the Harry Buffalo in Orlando, getting set for Florida State and Oklahoma. You've been here longer than I have. I believe you got here a couple days ago, in fact. Yeah. And so it is that little Top Golf action, buddy.
Top Golf, yep.
Anything else?
No
practice coverage?
No practice coverage. I wrote some stuff. I got to hang out with Ira. That was fun.
Man, what a time.
What a time in O-Town.
I'll tell you this much, though. I did read that fine article you wrote. This is where I want to start, by the way, so it worked out perfect, Corey. You wrote your second good article of the year.
I was really impressed. I got snuck it in right before the new year.
Just before. I was so proud of you. I was like, well, maybe we'll keep him.
Yeah.
I love the piece on how likable the team is because it shared and echoed the sentiment, I think, of the fan base. But also, I have felt that way all year long, too. You and I are lucky enough to go out to spring practice.
But we also talk to people that really feel it. You know what I mean?
All the
it's
time.
not just you and I. It's not a vacuum of you and I saying they're likable. We hear from a lot of fans that say it.
And I agree with them. You know, I mean, I hear a lot of things from fans. So do you. And I don't always agree with them. But they are right about that. What they're witnessing is true. That it's a likable bunch who works really hard. When they have bad days, they fight hard to have good days the next day. They come back. You know, Mike talks about that a lot in his daily press briefings. I think going back to spring when you and I were watching them and wondering what they were going to be and how good could they be, and we knew certain additions were going to come in and all the things that we talked about all year long, they were already likable. They had shown that they were working hard.
Yeah.
They wanted to be better. They cared deeply. And I said earlier on the Jeff Cameron show with Tom, that started with me for Jordan Travis. Like the work he put in to become a so much better player.
Yeah.
Well, your quarterback has to be a leader. And
Ownership.
And he's not a vocal guy, so he has to do it through his actions. He has to play better. He has to work hard. He did all those things. Mike talked about that. And then the players followed. So they all get credit for that. But, man, they do. They never – think about the 3-game losing streak. And the teams of old would have cashed in the chips, baby. You would have watched this thing come off the tracks.
Yeah.
There was never a sense that it was coming off the tracks. Why is it – I think another indicator that we knew they were a likable bunch in terms of hard work and integrity is that in the middle of that 3-game losing streak, at the end of the 3-game losing streak, we said, you know, they could win the next 5 games. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, we looked at the schedule and we said, you know what, if they show up and play hard, they could win the next 5 games. And they did. And it flipped everything about this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the team now, they're riding a 5-game winning streak. And, you know, what's cool about where Florida State is now is they still haven't arrived.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think – I don't know if this happens again next year if they're 9-3, that all the players decide to play in the bowl game.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because
it's not normal.
The expectations are different next year. Right now, they want to do something special, something that means something to them. It's not just for Jamie Robinson about getting drafted, having a good game and getting drafted, or I don't want to risk my body, so I don't want to play. He really wants to get to a 10th win. Why? He's only been here 2 years. He's not invested in the similar way that you're invested.
Sure.
You've been cheering for this program for 50 years. He's been here for 2, but that's what's so cool is it matters that much to him.
Yeah.
That he wants to play in this game. And so many of these guys want to play in this game. And they want to get to 10th win, and that's another part of the likability. It matters to them. They're not just mercenaries that are here to play some football and then move on. They really do kind of become ingrained in the culture that he's built. And it means something. This brotherhood that they talk about, I put that in quotes, but it's not really quotes with them. They believe it.
I quoted from your article. I think this quote sums it up, man. It inspired me when I read it from Jordan Travis. I was like, man, that guy doesn't say things just to say them. I mean, he's saying something. This is contemplative. This is actually sweet. When you were talking about nobody opting out, and he said, yeah, I think we owe it to this university. Florida State gives us everything. We're blessed every single day we get to wake up as a Seminole. I think we all know that. Knowing how far we've come as a football team, the offseason, how hard we work together, nobody wants to leave anybody behind. What Coach Mike Norvell does for us, too. That's a coach that loves us really hard. He coaches us really hard. It means a lot to us. So, yeah, I think it was an easy decision for a lot of the guys. You're not going to hear people say that too often. You're just not.
That's not what college football is
not anymore at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts, right, to hear that. To hear about guys risking potential injury because they love each other enough to come back and play in an exhibition game.
It's so
because
much,
they want to be around to get each other one more time.
And don't you think it's because of the ride they've been on, too?
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, they were all – Jordan Travis – not everybody on this team was there for Jacksonville State, but most of them were.
Yeah.
And they remember that locker room. They remember I'm sure what campus was like on Monday and then the next 2 weeks. And now here they are, man. They want to enjoy this. Like, they worked really hard to turn themselves into a good football team, and they want to enjoy their flowers, man. They're just desserts.
Curious what you think we see tomorrow, or I should say this evening. Curious what you think we'll see from this team in that they're all invested. They're committed. We just got done documenting that. Oklahoma, meanwhile, is not. You had opt-outs. You're missing tackles. You got all kinds of guys. It's been a bad season for them. They're 6-6. Transitional year. Now, a lot of the young guys will probably want to play hard because they're trying to put something good on tape. But what do you think we see tomorrow as this transpires? What way?
I mean, I would be surprised if Florida State doesn't at least score 40, right? Oklahoma's defense
every
is bad.
game but one in the last 5 they did.
And also Oklahoma, this is the best offense Oklahoma's faced.
Yeah.
And it's the best rushing attack Oklahoma's faced. And I looked it up. The second best rushing attack Oklahoma will have faced was TCU's, who's 25th in the country. They ran for 396 against Oklahoma. Texas
that was a blowout.
Yes, and Texas is 27th in the nation rushing. They ran for 299. Florida State's 12th in the nation. And Florida State cares to be in this game.
Right.
And they want to play hard, and they want to play well. As you said, I don't know that Oklahoma is equipped to handle it. So if you don't turn it over, like usually when you go into these games, you question the motivation. Are they really fired up to be here? Who wants to play? You know Florida State wants to play. So if they don't play well, it's not because they didn't prepare or they don't care. It's just it's sports and things happen. And they might make some silly mistakes. But you know they're going to be there. They have cared this month getting ready for this game.
Well, and I think the one thing I would say and caution people, I watch a lot of Oklahoma games. They're a Jekyll and Hyde team. They've looked really good at times and really, really bad at times. You just mentioned 2 games in which they look terrible. They've had other games where I thought, oh, wow, it's turning the corner.
Yeah.
They're weird. But the point is they don't lack athleticism.
Right.
I mean, if you look at recruiting rankings the last 5 years, they got players.
Yeah.
Elite players now. Several of them transferred out.
Yes.
And some of them followed Lincoln Riley, including the best quarterback in the country.
Right. They could have used him.
Yeah. But it's not like they don't have guys that can run and jump and hit. They do have players. This isn't the overwhelmed nature of a impotent Miami program who has nothing to offer on a football field.
They've already had 4 or 5 guys opt out for the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's how talented they are, though, right? They have that many guys. Like Florida State doesn't have 4 or 5 guys that can opt out for the NFL draft. So they do have that kind of talent. If they do care to show up, if the guys that left the program were part of the problem, then maybe they show up and play hard, and
they got nothing to lose. Nobody thinks we're going to win. We're 10-point underdogs. Yeah, in bowl games are weird anyway.
Really weird.
It's just that you have a confidence in this team and this coaching staff that you wouldn't think Florida State would get caught. Well, I mean, what are they looking ahead to? Spring practice?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't get caught looking ahead, but they wouldn't be stepping on the field overconfident and not taking this game seriously. Because what gives you – like they're right now, the way these rosters are currently constructed, they're a much better team than Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Well, look what they did the last month of the season against teams that were much better there.
Blew them out.
They housed them quickly. They took care of business quickly.
Same for Florida.
Yeah, but Florida had a guy at quarterback, had an offense that you struggled with. And if you talk about giving you pause, Oklahoma has a good offense. They have a good quarterback, a good wide receiver. And they have been able to run the ball. They're 13th in the country in rushing. Now, they lost their 1,300-yard rusher. He's opted out. But you know they can run the ball a little bit, except, they don't have the running back and they don't have the 2 tackles. So it's going to be it's going to be a different looking rushing attack.
Is that the only – I'm interested, Corey, if you think this, because Tom asked me earlier, how does Oklahoma win this game or how does Florida State lose this game, however you want to word it. I said, look, man, I'm going to say I'm a broken record. It's going to bother a lot of people out there because I can't stop harping on it. I know what the numbers say, but I also know what I believe. I don't think Florida State's defense is elite. I don't care what those numbers say. They're not elite.
Right.
And when they've played good teams who have good offenses, guess what? They gave up a lot of points to them. We just got done talking about Florida's offense. We talked about Wake Forest offense, Clemson's offense, even LSU to an extent. They gave up points.
Yeah.
That's what they do when they face good offenses. So I don't know that they're going to shut Oklahoma down.
Oh, no, I don't either. I don't think they will. I think it's a good quarterback, and they have a good receivers. It's a freshman running back that'll get his chance to shine.
He wants to shine, right.
You're going to have but you just won't be as good up front because you lost 2 NFL guys up front. So you should be able to take advantage of that. But my point is, what's the least number you would think Florida State would score in this game? Like, it would have to go horribly wrong for them to score anything under 24.
Sure.
So
they'd have to find her in the red zone.
So that's what, exactly. So that's what gives me optimism that, I don't think the defense, I don't think it's going to be 50-6.
Right.
But I think it could be
something.
I think it could be 40-30. I think it could be something like that. It's a bold, but then that would be a disappointment if the defense gave up 30 points.
Well, it would just add talking points to going into next season.
Right.
Is what it would be. I mean, let me ask you if you agree with this, and I'll let you go.
Please do. Good grief.
I'm curious, by the way. I said and ruffled some feathers, at least in terms of the email and Twitter responses. This game doesn't really mean much. And I know everybody wants it to and believes it should.
Yeah.
But in the big scheme of things, Florida State accomplished what they needed to accomplish to reestablish expectations and believe that they're a program on the rise. And whether they win or lose today against Oklahoma makes no difference. I'd rather win than lose, of course. But to me, it doesn't mean much.
And when you say it doesn't make a difference, you're talking about
next season.
Correct. It makes a difference how you view this season. Probably.
Nominally for a day or two.
Well, just because it would be cool. Not because, they're 9-4. What a bummer. It's like, man, wouldn't it be cool for them to get to 10 games? It
would be cool.
And it means something to them, to the players. And
I want it for them. I want it for them. I really do. I don't think it impacts the success or lack thereof at all.
But I think it impacts maybe the overall feel of, okay, instead of finishing 10th in the country, you finish 21st or 19th.
Right.
So that's where I think it would matter. But, yes, going into next season, which is most important, the next time you're here, the next time we're here in this bar.
It's going to be awesome.
Getting ready for that game in that stadium, I don't think what happens today will impact anything about that at all. I think that Florida State's going to be good. No matter if they win this game or lose this game, Florida State's going to be good next year.
I think they're going to be very good. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're actually on the same page. Well, it's not surprising the two smartest guys on staff feel the same way about the game. By far.
It's not close.
You don't have to worry about hair. It's not close.
It's not close. Who's third?
Oh, that's a good debate.
That is unfair. People are going to be debating that for a while.
Take a poll next time we do one of these shows.
Who's the third best-looking guy?
I'll do it on the JCS. You do it on Wake Up Warchant, and we'll see what our poll numbers say.
I'm going to guess it's probably T. Lang, but I don't know that for sure.
There'll be some fun.
There'll be some Aslan's
in shape.
Ira's got
the silver hair.
Silver fox,
yeah. A lot of girls like the daddy things.
The bear. It's the bear.
It's Warchant Game Day from Orlando. He's Corey Clark. I'm Jeff Cameron. T. Lizzie will rejoin us, and we'll soldier on talking about Florida State, Oklahoma in just a moment. The game, to me, and I brought this up earlier this week, and I knew there would be some pushback for it, because when you're here, you might as well play to win. You want to win the game, and they will play to win. I didn't want people to mistake what I was saying. I just thought it was a kind of an afterthought, because Florida State has achieved what they needed to achieve, in my estimation, in order to turn the corner, to get to where you can have an opportunity to be good, sustained periods of time and recruiting on down the line. You got to have that season. And so it was nice. It was nice that they were able to do that. This is the reward. I want them to win, but if they don't, I'm saying it's not a disaster. That's all. That's the only thing I was making mention of. Somebody asked me about it the other day. Like, you don't think it's important that they win? No, important is an interesting word. No, I don't think it's applicable here. I don't think it's important.
This is where we disagree.
You don't think it's important either, Tom. You want them to, and you think, listen, hold on.
Tell me what I believe.
Well, here's what I will. Because you don't believe it's important. You're not going to make that argument. You're going to say they can use it. They can use it to pull the wool over the eyes of recruits by saying, hey, they beat Oklahoma. Hey, they got 10 wins. You're not saying it's important, but you're saying that you would like to have it in your arsenal.
I'd say that it is important to be able to pull the wool over the eyes of recruits and declare a 10-win season. I think that's very important. Anything that you can tell a recruit to convince them to come your way, they're not going to check the records. They're not going to say, you played 4 backup quarterbacks.
Listen, the early
garbage. That LSU team in week 1 was nothing. They're not going to say that.
The early signing period already happened. You can't go back and go, hey, wait a minute, we won another game.
It's for 24 recruits. Because you could say back-to-back 10-win seasons.
2024 recruit is going to say, well, I'm glad you won that Oklahoma game. I was a little unsure until you won the Cheez It Bowl.
No, I feel like recruiting is like driving a cruise ship. When you make a choice, that choice has a legacy that lasts beyond the moment that you steer the wheel. That's anything you do this year affects 2024 greatly. So if you can declare 10 wins in 2020 to the 2024 kids, that's much better than going 9-4. I think that makes a difference.
It's not much better. I don't think it makes a world of difference. It might with a kid. I just don't. If If this were a playoff game, obviously it would mean
if
something.
It was different.
If it was a New Year's Day game and you were, I just come on. The Peach Bowl is a lot more important, for example, between, that battle is a lot more important than between Ohio State and Georgia.
Right. Of course it is.
Well, not just in terms of the magnitude in college football. What I'm saying is they're playing for the right to play for a national championship. You're winning an exhibition game. You've already had a good season. Oklahoma doesn't have their 2 starting tackles. A lot of the guys, they've had a bad year. They're 6-6. Now, this is where our fans...
Your defenses are up. I get it.
No.
You're guarding against the Oklahoma curse living on.
Well, we do have a curse against Oklahoma. There's no doubt about that. One thing I will say, I think it would be different, to your point, if they were fully loaded and ready to play and excited to play and had a good season. And I think our fans probably believe, I said this on the air at the time the announcement came down, and I hated saying it because I have Oklahoma ties. Florida State deserved better. We are a much better team right now than Oklahoma and had a much better season, and I think deserved a better opponent. But that's not what happened. You got Oklahoma. Now, from a name recognition standpoint, from a brand recognition, it's great. People will tune into this game because it is Oklahoma and Florida State, and those 2 brands go a long way. And for that reason, I'm excited. Should be a great crowd. The enthusiasm surrounding the bowl is partly due to the brands. I agree with that. Just in terms of what it means to beat that team. If we're getting down into it, what it means to beat that team, not that much. Not compared to what you achieved this year in the season.
No, and again,
that won't go away if you don't beat them.
Yeah, and part of it is, how many guys they're down, guys that have opted out. They've got one of their tackles that's projected to be a late first-round pick. That's going to make a difference. They like the younger players that they do have. The one thing I will say about this game is in a lot of bowl situations, you've got teams that are in very different places in terms of their investment.
Correct.
Remember the Chick-fil-A Bowl that it's the last game that we covered on site. Houston, FSU. Did one team care to be there and another team kind of go through the motions?
Correct.
Absolutely. Houston cared. That was Houston's Super Bowl. UCF did this for years. That's why they claimed paper national champions, faux national championships, because they cared to be there and other teams didn't. That's just true. That happens in bowl settings.
All right.
What I will say about this particular bowl, though, is that with Oklahoma playing so many younger players and Florida State having guys not opt out and participate in this game,
you think the level of care will be high
for both teams. And I think that makes for a much more enjoyable exhibition when both teams care to be there. They're both Ivan Drago instead of just one Ivan Drago trying to kill Apollo Creed.
Well, know this, Oklahoma does recruit well, so it means something when you talk about their backups playing and playing hard and caring, because it's a level of athlete that comes with it that can do something about it. So I'm not suggesting that OU, who had a bad year and really was a Jekyll and Hyde team, they were a very strange team to watch. One week you'd think, oh, well, this is a dominant team with a lot of speed and plenty of depth. And next week you'd go, good God, this team doesn't care to be out there. Their defense can't get a stop. It was a very strange year for Brent Venables in year one. And I think that fan base is looking at him a little jaundiced-eyed, wondering, well, what happened here? But it is year one, and we see transitional years are very difficult sometimes, so they understand.
Yeah, I got a theory on that, because Brent Venables is notorious and lauded, depending upon what side of the ledger you're on, for completely changing a defensive scheme week to week based upon what doesn't work or what an opponent can't do and can't execute against. Like, so you can't just say he's a 4-3 or a 4-2-5 or a 3-4. He's multiple as hell.
Correct.
And that's got to be really hard on a first-year defense, as you're getting the playbook completely ripped away from you, a brand new one to study in short order, and you don't really have the horses to run it like Clemson. Certainly you don't like Clemson, but not the guys that Brent wants to. That's where you see different performances, like against Oklahoma State, they forced 4 picks from Spencer Sanders, and then against Texas Tech, they didn't allow a point after the first quarter, and by the end of the game, Tech has 51 on the board. They allowed 51 in 3 quarters plus overtime.
It was bizarre to watch him. And I watched the extremes, the emotions that went all the way up here, all the way down here. It was strange to watch that team. Every week, I never knew what I was going to get from that team. And that's why I do say I wonder which team's going to show up. You're right. They could very well show up. They have athletes. They're probably hungry because you got a lot of young guys trying to earn time for next year. There's no doubt about that.
The good news is the scouting report on them, what they get wrong, is actually consistent with Clemson. When Clemson went bad, even with all those athletes, how did they get gashed? They were misaligned at the snap. And I think that's a function of being very complicated as a defense. It's kind of like side adjustments as a receiver in Jimbo Fisher's offense, or progressions for a quarterback in Jimbo's offense. It's really complex. You've got to be Jameis in the Matrix to understand all the idiosyncrasies that are involved. And you can't really be that dense as a receiver either to be in Jimbo's offense. In the same way, on defense for Brent Venables at Clemson, when they went bad, they were misaligned pre-snap. And that's the complaint that's coming out of Norman from that fan base is they're misaligned a whole lot, and they don't tackle all that well. So those two things combined against a rushing attack and the offense like Mike Norvell provides, which is all kinds of misdirection, that bodes very well. That's no surprise that you project Florida State to score a bunch, but these are the reasons why they are on pace and probably should score a bunch tomorrow.
When you're talking about Venables and what he does, this is interesting because one of the things he does, you don't often see efforted in any way in college because you don't have as much time with the players like you do in the NFL. In the NFL, the defense that changes the most week to week is Cincinnati. If you watch Cincinnati's defense, they will run entirely different schemes week to week based on opponent strength. It's actually one of the reasons they're so much better this year. That offense hasn't always had to bail them out. They've been able to get stops.
And that's why different defensive linemen every week are like, I thought that guy was good.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not his fault. They're asking him to do something completely different week over week.
Completely different. Yeah. So you see NFL, like elite NFL DCs, if they've got personnel they trust and they've got smart football players, see New England, guys like that, they will change completely what they ask you to do. Venables has done that in the college ranks, and it is rare, but he did it because he built up that equity, that trust with that team at Clemson for a long time. Now you go to OU, and you're trying to get these kids to buy in, understand, and trust that they know what they know, and then you're going to add to it. But I think probably in year one there were moments in time when he added to it when they didn't have a full grasp of what they were doing the week before. And you've seen that. That's why you see that inconsistency, too.
And that's the argument for could they put something together to confuse us. It's a bowl game. You have forever to install for this particular game. That's why it's also hard to handicap them. If you have a team that's invested and you have brand new wrinkles that have not been on film in the 12-game season, specifically tailored to an opponent, that's where, I mean, it wouldn't stun me if this game is 14-all after a quarter, and it wouldn't stun me if it's 7-3 or 3-0 because of the confusion. There's rust. And then there's confusion. That's why bowl games are so hard. But I think once you get into the flow of it, you should expect us offensively to handle business.
Hope so. And I think Florida State is in a position, again, where they feel very good about themselves. They had everybody back. All those guys practice. All those teams seem very, very excited about. I mean, all those weeks leading up to this game seemed to be filled with guys who were wanting to play together, wanting to invest yet again, wanting to succeed and win that 10th game and be the 25th 10-win season in Florida State lore. And so, I mean, that goes a long way, man. They're all on the same page. They're all invested. They all care very deeply about winning.
In the 2.5 minutes that we have left here before we set into the next hour, what's your sense of how they're going to play? I mean, it's a bowl game, so it's really hard. But
sometimes
because you're going tomorrow, so when you're in the building tomorrow, you bring the boys with you, which is cool. They're here on the road trip. Saw them just a couple hours ago as we were setting up. What do you expect to see?
I think we're going to play well. I never know with the defense. I harp on this. They've had wonderful stretches this year where they played great, and I can't take that away from them. But they're the unit I trust the least. They're going against a pretty damn good quarterback who can make all the throws. We've seen Dylan Gabriel. Everybody knows who he is. So there are athletes on that side of the ball, and I don't know how they'll play. But I think the offense is going to play very well. I think they're excited. I think Jordan Travis gives you that steadiness that you need at the most important position on the field. There's no reason to think he'll play poorly. I think Mike and Alex do a great job of game planning. I say that every week. I think it bears repeating. The game plan is usually sound. The execution isn't always sound, but the game plan is usually very sound here. I have no reason. Look at that game face on Mike all week long, man. All the interviews that he did, even the one with Brent Venables today. I mean, that guy cares about this game, and he has sent the message to his team that it's important.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking forward to is seeing Jordan Travis play freely, and he should be less banged up than he was at the end of the regular season, certainly. The best part that he did in the second half, the best thing he did in the second half of the season, best part of his game, was that when he was in danger, he got down. He got away from contact. He didn't take on contact. Flashback to the first and second game of the season. He's throwing blocks. And we're thinking, Jordan, for crying out loud, you're our last line
here. Don't need
here.
you to do that. Yeah.
We don't need you doing that. And then post-injury, I think he wised up. He's like, oh, okay. If I'm going to be in the open field, I need to get down. The evolution of his game as he becomes more comfortable. And now he knows he's not going anywhere else. He's coming back next year. I look forward to seeing him play loose and free tomorrow in a way that maybe he hasn't in a little while. Prediction time, and I pass the baton. The Cheez It Bowl prediction, first one goes to Jeff.
I'll take Florida State to win said football game 38-23.
Okay, all right. It's not the same.
Not the same. 38. You were worried.
I know, yes. So you were the guy that called for an ass beating of Miami.
I did.
You did, and then you followed through with your prediction. I was the guy who called for the 40 burger. The term 40 burger is born, alive, and well, and healthy enough to travel to Orlando on a Thursday evening.
Nice.
Florida State 42, Oklahoma 24.
42.
I think so. It might be slow to start, but I think then it keeps going.
Well, I like us big, you like us big, so that's a good thing.
It is indeed. Thanks to everybody who participated on staff here at warchant.com for today's Warchant Report. Again, on game day starting at 1 o'clock from 1 to 3, the JCS, including a pregame show from 2 to 3 p.m., the watch-along at 5:30 p.m., the post-game show 10 to 15 minutes after. Stay tuned here to Warchant TV for all your best of Florida State and Oklahoma in the Cheez It Bowl. Subscribe, like the video. Goodbye. We'll talk to you next time.
Do all the things. Go Noles.
Warchant TV.